When there is enormous data influx, how would you advise students to decipher the data?
Well, when there are enormous data involved, okay, partly it also kind of depends on, say, the data is kind of in what format, right? I mean, for example, like, if the data is coming from the financial markets, right? So where the data automatically kind of you have to have a kind of a huge computing facilities for storing it. On the other hand, like you kind of like to go through this newspapers and all these things. So it kind of just depends on, I would say, that like using the computing facilities and writing the right programs, that should be the key.
Got it. What advice would you give current economics students who will steer policy decisions in the future?
First of all, that try to kind of understand the economics on the first principles. Okay, so there are lots of good textbooks, like, for example, for the microeconomics, Hal Variance intermediate textbook, undergraduate, that's kind of a very good. So which means that economics is a relatively quantitative subject, but you can understand, since it's a lot of things are the part of life, economic life, so you have to kind of link the real life events to the mathematical and quantitative model building, and then you try to kind of fill a specific situation, and then you probably kind of make the code according to the size, because there is no single size fits for all, right? So in order to kind of understand, you have to understand the details. For the details, you cannot like scramble every details into kind of a different thing. So that's why start learning the things from the first principle. Means you could see what are the unifying features of the problem, what are the non-unifying. You separate, understand, and see what problem is relevant.
What will be the key features distinguishing the best economists in the future?
The best economist in the future is actually, as I just said, there is in economics, you need quants, you need the real life situation, and also you need the art of communication, right? So the combinations of three, and ultimately everybody is kind of interested in listening to a story. I can tell you a false story or a kind of a gossip or etc. Or I can tell you a solid story, okay? Stitching the quants, reflecting or analytically explaining and dissecting the real life, and telling them in kind of as simple as possible, okay? But not simpler.
According to you, in what direction is the Indian economy moving?
Indian economy, what direction is moving? Okay, there are certain positive directions. Okay, for example, we have a huge number of younger population. Okay, we have a kind of a relatively younger nation. Okay, 75, while Europe and China is kind of much older. But at the same time, what I feel that there has not been enough investment in health, education, and certain basic things. And even in this education, like, it doesn't mean that it's kind of having some infrastructure, chairs and benches, right? One has to kind of deliver knowledge, okay? Now, one particular thing that you say about this education, I'll say a little bit kind of a more detail, okay? For example, in the internet, in YouTube, these days, huge amount of valuable resources are kind of available, right? And then you can train the government's job. I'm just saying, as a part of the economic policies, just think about assigning some very good people who are in either math, science or history, going through the, say, like YouTube or the various top universities website where they kind of have these lectures recorded and etc. And then if they use that platform to reach a huge number of people, okay, that would kind of accelerate the education base. That would make the people kind of aware, and that could be done at a very lower cost as well. That would be my suggestion.
What do you think of the conference organized by Ahmedabad University?
Excellent. This was the first time I'm kind of coming. In fact, actually, I had looked at the program, and the organizers did kind of a very good thing. But one thing I must kind of also kind of a caution. Okay, it's also from my economics principle. Is this okay? Having once or twice will not have a big effect. You have a kind of a, like before plane takes off, it has to kind of run, at a substantive speed for some amount, so for some length of time before. Okay, so here also the same thing. You have to do it, okay, at least next 3-4 years, and then it will be an automatic run.
And what do you think of RBI's decision to take forward rupee as a fully digital currency?
I actually don't know the details of this, okay, but the digital currency kind of, if it is the purpose of kind of benefiting lots of poorer people who were not banked, okay, it's an excellent idea. But again, in economics, in modern economics, it's very important, not just the idea, as the Kaushik Basu today kind of mentioned, also the method of implementation. How are you going to implement that? What are the costs of it? What are the benefits of this, right? So there's certain learning by doing as well. So what I'm just trying to say is that an idea actually in economics is better only when it is put into practice and getting the results. So I'll just say that is, start with a small level, see how the results are there, and then try to replicate the good results other places, avoid the bad practices.
And lastly, what is your take on India beating the post-COVID Russian war recession?
Post-COVID Russian war, okay, it's actually it's difficult to say because the world is in a kind of quite a bit of flux, right? So, for example, it's like it is giving India as a kind of a leverage between, say, strategically, between, say, West and the Russia, right? So, India could support or at least not kind of go against Russia overtly so that they can get a cheaper oil price. Okay, that's, I think, is a kind of a very sound policy. Why? Because whether India says, okay, we don't like the war or don't like the war, it doesn't affect Putin's decision, right? So, but on the other hand, if you get a cheaper oil, that would be the oil, but at the same time, we should not be kind of because in the West we export a lot of other things as well. So that is a kind of a tricky trade that would be politicians probably would know, as chief politicians would know better than me.